11 years. That is how long I stayed away. 11 years of silence. 11 years of building a life far away from the people who were supposed to love me. 11 years of carrying a secret that was never mine to carry in the first place. And then one morning I woke up and I saw the invitation on social media. My sister was getting married. Again. To a man I had never met. And something shifted inside me that I cannot fully explain even now. Not anger. Not sadness. Something quieter and more certain than either of those things. I was going to that wedding. Not to celebrate. Not to cause a scene. Not to beg for forgiveness I did not owe anyone. I was going because 11 years ago I was removed from my own family to protect a lie. And the man at the center of that lie was still walking around free, still charming, still untouchable. Until that wedding day. They did not recognize me when I walked in. 11 years changes a person. And by the time they realized who I was, it was already too late to stop what was coming. This is that story. I need to take you back to 11 years ago. I was 23. My sister Rachel was 28 and getting married for the first time to a man named Gregory. The whole family adored Gregory. Charming, successful, well-spoken. He had this way of making every single person in the room feel like they were the most important person he had ever met. I did not trust him from the beginning. Not because I had any proof at the time. Just a feeling. The kind of feeling that sits in your stomach and refuses to leave no matter how many times you tell yourself you are imagining it. And then 4 weeks before the wedding, I found out I was not imagining anything. I had gone to Rachel's flat to drop off some things she had left at our mum's house. She was not home, but she had given me a spare key months earlier. I let myself in and left the bag in the hallway. And as I was leaving I heard Gregory's voice coming from the bedroom. He was on the phone. The door was slightly open. I should have left immediately. But something made me stop. He was talking to someone in a voice I had never heard him use before. Low and cold and completely different from the warm, charming man the whole family knew. He was telling whoever was on the phone that everything was on track. That once the wedding was done the paperwork would go through and the money would transfer. That Rachel had no idea. I stood in that hallway completely frozen. I did not hear everything. But I heard enough. Gregory was using my sister. The wedding was not about love. There was money involved, property, something legal that Rachel was completely unaware of. I did not have every detail, but what I had was enough to know that my sister was about to make the worst mistake of her life. I went straight to my mother that same evening and I told her everything I had heard. Word for word. She listened and then she went very quiet. And then she picked up the phone and called Gregory. What happened next destroyed me. Gregory came to the house that evening with Rachel. And he sat across from me and he looked me directly in the eye and he lied. He said I had misheard. He said I had always had a problem with him. He said I was jealous of Rachel's happiness and that this was not the first time I had tried to come between them. He said it so calmly, so convincingly, that even I almost believed him for a moment. Rachel was in tears. My mother was in tears. And by the end of that evening it was not Gregory who was in trouble. It was me. 3 days later my mother told me I was not welcome at the wedding. She said I had tried to destroy Rachel's happiness and that until I apologized to Gregory she did not want to hear from me. Rachel did not even call. Just silence. I did not apologize. Because I had nothing to apologize for. I packed what I needed and I moved to Edinburgh. I built a new life. New friends, new job, eventually a career I was genuinely proud of. I went to therapy. I processed everything. I healed, mostly. But I never forgot. And I never stopped knowing that what I had heard in that hallway was the truth. Gregory and Rachel divorced 4 years after the wedding. I found out through a cousin who still kept in contact with me. No details were shared. Just that it had ended badly and that Rachel had lost a significant amount of money in the process. I felt no satisfaction in that. Just a deep and exhausting sadness. Then 7 months ago I saw on social media that Rachel was engaged again. A man named Thomas. And something inside me, that quiet certain feeling I had learned to trust, said it was time to go back. Not to say I told you so. But because I had information Rachel deserved to have and I had stayed silent long enough. I hired a private investigator. It cost me money I had saved carefully. What he found in 3 weeks confirmed everything I had suspected about Gregory all those years ago. Financial fraud. A pattern of targeting women before marriage. Rachel had not been the only one. I had the documents in my bag when I walked into that wedding venue. The venue was beautiful. Flowers everywhere, soft lighting, the smell of something warm and expensive in the air. I had dressed carefully. Different hair, different style, 11 years older and 11 years more certain of myself. I walked in and nobody looked twice. I found a seat near the back and I waited. My mother saw me first. I watched the moment she recognized me from across the room. She went completely still. Then she started moving towards me and I stood up to meet her and I said very quietly, "I am not here to cause trouble. I am here because Rachel deserves the truth. Please let me speak to her before the ceremony." My mother stared at me for a long moment. And then she stepped aside. I found Rachel in the bridal room. When she turned and saw me she went pale. I spoke before she could ask me to leave. I put the documents on the table in front of her and I told her everything. About what I heard 11 years ago. About what the divorce had really been about. About the pattern Gregory had repeated with other women. About why I had come back. Rachel did not speak for a very long time. Then she picked up the documents and she read them. All of them. And when she looked up her eyes were full of tears but her expression was something I had not expected. It was relief. She told me she had always known on some level that something was wrong back then. She told me she had spent years feeling guilty about what happened between us. She told me she was sorry. The wedding went ahead that day. Thomas, I am glad to say, is exactly who he appears to be. I sat in the front row next to my mother who held my hand through the entire ceremony. 11 years of silence ended in that bridal room. It was not the reunion I had imagined. It was better. Because it was real. Have you ever been pushed out of your own family for telling the truth? Or have you ever had to carry a secret for years because nobody was ready to hear it? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one and this is always a safe space. If this story moved you, please subscribe to Revenge and Life Stories. Every week we bring you real, raw, emotional stories that remind you that the truth always finds its way out no matter how long it takes. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications so you never miss a story.